Hey everyone, Ashley Mailloux and Gino Buccola here. We're going to take a look at the nightcap this Sunday out at Santa Anita. Race number 10 is the Grade 3 Daytona, 6.5 furlongs on the downhill. And Gino, a nice field here as we look at the slate and all the names. 10 horses in here, but I feel like a case can be made for the win honors, maybe 5 or 6 of them.
When you and I were discussing before we started recording who's going to be the favorite, we were trying to figure out. I think there are a few different horses who could kind of take that role. It is wide open. Races 9 and 10 on Sunday, totally different, right? Because you have Adair Manor, the star, and then following that, you have a much more open betting race. And as we record early on Friday morning, we don't have the morning line odds quite yet. So it will be a challenging race. I think this is when a lot of people will probably be deep, and as you pointed out, 4 or 5 deep.
Which is good, not to have the morning line. It's not going to influence our selections here, even though
I
I think
agree.
I have some sleepers in here, maybe. But we'll take a look at the Time Form US pace projections here. And you can see the 2 and the 3 really look to be the pace in here, but also the number 4 first piece, who always likes to be like second early on with a target in front of him. But horses like Air Force Red typically needs to go to the lead or needs to be very close to it. And then Mucho del Oro on the inside. We know that it's kind of a, I hate to say the phrase, one-trick pony. He likes to be on the lead.
He went 43 like flat to last time out, which is just crazy thinking about. And then he stopped. He's gone pretty quick before, almost that quick, but he's a real enigma in this race because he's coming off that effort where it was really disappointing when he showed speed, and then he has Air Force Red right next door. So yeah, I mean, just those horses alone, you figure are going to be making a very, very fast pace in here, Ashley.
All right, trainer Mark Glad has a couple of in here, and one of them is the number 1, What Makes Sammy Run. We'll take a look at a performance. Now we're going to go back almost a year ago to the date. The second to last time that we saw this gelding was in the Daytona, where this is a runner-up finish, and I thought this was a really nice performance behind Fast Buck, who's aptly named, wants to go to the front in terms of trip. What Makes Sammy Run, likes to close from off of it and just gets denied in the final stages. Now after this, we see this neck defeat for What Makes Sammy Run. Only one more appearance on the shelf, but this is a barn, Gino. They do very well off the long layout.
Yeah, this is a grade 2 winner. He'll be making his first start in 11 months. He does need a little pace to run at. Sometimes the rail down the hill can be a little bit tricky, but one thing I have noticed in years, since the downhill layout is downhill, it's actually a pretty simple, one of the easier courses to come off of an extended layoff, because it does a little bit of the running for you already. And when you have a horse like What Makes Sammy Run, he's only going to be launching for the last quarter of the race anyways, right? The last quarter mile or so. So he's not going to necessarily be carving it out up front. I'm not worried very much about the extended layoff with him. And in a wide open race, he's just one of many contenders in here.
I want to get your thoughts on the 2, Mucho del Oro. We saw likely to be part of the pace scenario early on. Set wicked fractions, as you mentioned last time out, but surrendered late. What do you do with him in a spot like this where there's likely other horses that will be pressing him?
Yeah, that to me was kind of a red flag, because he was in really nice form prior to that. And then he's a horse who's actually gone off form before, gone a little bit sour and thrown in some clunkers. And with the presence of Air Force Red just right next door, and how the connections talk about Air Force Red, knowing that he doesn't really want to sit off very much. They were kind of frustrated that last time out they had to deal with someone pushing them going that fast in the San Francisco Mile. I think that it'll be a little difficult for Mucho del Oro, especially being down to the inside of a couple other speeds too. So I'm a little bit cold on him in here, Ashley.
All right, you're forcing the conversation. You mentioned Air Force Red. We'll take a look at his most recent performance, a really game second place finish in the San Francisco Mile. And we did a preview for this race, and it was a stacked field. Everyone came to play at Golden Gate that day. You can see how many horses were in this race, 11 total. But just gets denied here. He did what he was supposed to do, though. He was supposed to go to the front.
He was my top pick in this race, and he gets beat right on the wire by Ashley's top pick, who gets me right there as we see Lamas. That was a really fun renewal of the San Francisco Mile, and it just feels like Air Force Red is in great form right now, right? He's coming back. He's had 3 starts back off the bench, so he's really fit at the moment, and he loves the downhill layout. He's had 3 wins down the hill. And he actually can sit a little bit here, because it's not like the mile where I just don't think he can go that far sitting off. He can be right to the outside maybe if Mucho del Oro wants to go. And I wouldn't be shocked if he could like inherit the lead early on and take over. I think he's a major player in here, but I don't have him on top just because, as you were pointing out, there's other speed in here. And he's probably also going to be softened up by Mucho del Oro right next door.
A horse that likes to have someone in front of him but likes to be close to it is the number 4 First Piece, and we'll take a look at that most recent performance back on April 21st. And when you look at this race and how many horses exit that race. There are several. You can see Johnny Padres, First Piece, Laneway, you name it. They're all in this compact field. They're going to square off again. What were your overall impressions on this performance when he was coming from a mile event back to 6.5 on the downhill?
This was such a weird race. And I like Fierce Peace coming out of it. But Johnny Padres, who was sort of the wild card in that race, he just runs right by these horses. And he was stepping up. He's in good form right now. I just think First Piece is kind of like the real like measuring stick in this race. To me, like him and Laneway are two horses that I feel like you kind of know what you're going to get from them. It's going to be a really good effort. It's a good enough effort to win. And if somebody doesn't jump up and run a really good race, those are the types of horses who will be right in the mix, probably hitting the trifecta. So I feel like he's going to be sitting, what would he hope to be sitting third in here? That would probably be the trip that he wants, maybe right behind the two horses to his inside, and he could get the jump on some of the others in here. I really have no knocks on him in this field. I think he's definitely another major player.
The 5 Daniels Magic is up next. He's had a little bit of a frustrating a couple of months off to maybe get back into form. And I guess the thing to maybe be desired from him is he just hasn't shown enough in those last 4. You talk about horses like Laneway and also First Piece, who, you know, them hitting the board. I mean, that's what they like to do. They don't necessarily like to find the winner's circle all the time, especially in the case of Laneway. But my issue is Daniels Magic. I feel like he's just a step below that.
Completely agree. My notes all big bold letters were just feels a cut below. And I didn't really find enough excuses in some of those races to want to upgrade him over some of the others. So I'll have to see a little bit more from him in here.
The 6 Astronomer, he's intriguing in the sense that we've never seen him go this short in his career. We've seen him from a mile to a mile and an eighth. The 6.5 on the downhill is a question. He's a horse that he has been somewhat close to moderate to fast paces in mile races. And I wonder how the cutback is going to set up for him. And I also wonder how the downhill will play to him.
Yeah, and I'm not someone as a gambler who likes to use like templates or be very general, because I think every horse is specific, every race is specific. You want to try to be as specific as possible when you're watching replays and when you're building tickets and things like that. But overall, in the years watching Santa Anita down the hill, horses who run well at 1 mile on the turf, they almost always run well down the hill. It just plays out the 6.5 down the hill a little more like a mile type turf course. So I think this should hit Astronomer right between the eyes. He's going to make his second start back off the bench. He got caught up kind of having to do the dirty work and put the pressure on Air Force Red. And that was in his first start since November. So in here, can he just track back a little bit more, sit more like 4th or 5th, have a little bit more punch now? Because he's never sprinted. He's never gone shorter than a mile. I just think this should set up so well for him, Ashley, coming into the race. So I like him a lot in this spot.
All right, well, there you go. Your poker face has already gone out of cover. We already know. But here's a question. I'm going to pose this on the next horse in the field, the 7 911 Turbo. I struggle, right? You see this horse coming up mile and 3/8, mile and a half, where he was actually a nice winner at Keeneland over a little bit of ground that had some moisture in it, right? It was a good turf course. Now he's going to cut back to 6.5 on the downhill. I have to feel like this is a stepping stone for something else, or they just have this opinion that they need to try something different. They want to see. It's kind of an experiment. And for me in a field like this, I can't take a horse like this.
Completely agree with you. It feels like this is the get the race under you and then something longer next time out. This horse has only 2 sprints, the debut race, and then the first start that he made off of a 10-month layoff. Right. So both of those situations feel like they would be just like this, a stepping stone to longer where he's been better. I think you throw him in here. Maybe he can come running late, hit the board. You'd be excited for that. And then it sets you up for something going longer next time out.
All right. The ultra consistent Laneway up next in the field. And this is a horse that obviously he's been third in his last 3. They've tried him from 5 to 6.5. And then even go down the page. I mean, it's been a while. They have tried him around 2 turns. And he's consistent. He's picking up checks. We only saw him 4 times last year. He was in the winner's circle twice. He made just shy of 200,000. I can't really discredit him, just knowing that he's going to give you an honest effort each and every single start.
Yeah, and he usually passes at least like half the field that he's in. The way this race shapes up, it looks like there's going to be a couple speeds, so he should be passing horses again. I don't have him on top, but he's one that if you're playing any types of exactas, tries, or supers, he's really hard to leave out. Maybe you have a strong opinion on top and you like a couple others a little bit more, but he's just really hard not to use in any of these downhill races. He's been such a like a staple in these races for the last couple of years. I love horses like this who they know what they are. He found a home down the hill. He's a good turf sprinter. When races shape up for him, he wins, but he's always going to come out and give a really good account of himself.
So we talked about horses maybe being consistent for minors, horses trying new things, a lot of question marks. You can't question the form of Johnny Padres, the next horse in the field. I mean, he's ultra consistent. He's probably at the best he's been maybe ever in quite some time with those 3 wins in a row. And they've bumped him up each and every single start. And I think that's interesting to note that 3 starts back, he could have claimed him for 50,000. Then they put him in a restricted race for Calbreds. And then he did not have that same restriction last time out in the Siren Lure, but he did everything right. We showed that replay earlier with First Piece and Laneway behind him. He's a horse that I think at the right price, he could be intriguing in this race.
Yeah, and it's funny as horse play gamblers, a lot of times we always try to poke holes in the horses who have won recently. And I'm going to try to make him prove it to me again. I'm looking at his form overall, and he keeps sort of passing every test. But I think this is a really tough field. It's a bigger field, and I'm just a little bit worried that he has a lot of other tough foes to deal with. So we try to get too cute. I do a lot of the times where I'm trying to pick and prod and project. I'm not too cute. I'm trying to get too cute. Trust me. I know that I haven't shaved recently. I got some weird hair thing going on Lucia was telling me about. But for Johnny Padres, we're going to take a shot against him today, Ashley.
So, and I bring this up, full disclosure, he's not on my top 4. So I'm going to be the spoiler alert.
It's like, why,
but
right? Why are we trying to do, you know?
When you look at him, if he is the right price, I would use him at least underneath. He's got to be the right price. And that's kind of the fun of this, right? Handicapping without the line, but just had to kind of throw that in there.
Yeah, and there's probably 2 or 3 horses that aren't even in my top 4. And the way that, depending on how you play individually, are you someone who plays pick 4s, pick 5s, you're looking for horses to win, or are you more of a try player, right? A horse like Laneway, I'm more likely to use underneath. You have a horse like Johnny Padres, actually, like if you're playing a pick 4 or pick 5, sounds sort of weird, but I would actually prefer playing him like on top at probably a better price, because I feel like he has the opportunity to win a race like this, or maybe finish 6th or 7th and be nowhere, whereas you kind of know what you're going to get from a Laneway type.
All right, final horse in the field is the 10 in here for Phil D'Amato. We're actually going to take a look at the most recent performance. You have to go back to the big day at Santa Anita. It's always the day after Christmas. And this is the Mathis Mile, grade 2 event, going a mile. I have to point that out, right? But I thought this was a really nice performance behind Watsonville. Yes, he went off favored, but to just miss by a nose in here, I think he did a lot of things right. And I think he's a type where, yes, he's going to try something new. He's going to cut back to 6.5, but we know he can go 6 furlongs on a different surface. And I think with his running style and the downhill, how it plays, 6.5 might be right up his alley.
Yeah, you did the archaeology perfect here, right? When you go through the past performances and you do some digging, because while he's gone longer on the turf, he's been successful sprinting on the synthetic. So you feel like if you just put the 2 of them right together, it should be perfect, right? This horse should get a really nice sort of trip on maybe a style of track that they would like. Drawn to the outside is very good down the hill. There are 2 horses that I think you have in the top 4 of yours that I don't have. And I have no problem with either of them as pick 4 or pick 5 horses, because it's that difficult of a race. I really do think that I'm probably going to be 4, 5, 6 deep, hopefully alive, trying to close out a pick 4 or pick 5 in this race on Sunday at Santa Anita.
Right, and hopefully it's a price. We know that Adair Manor in the leg before this will be short. I know you like a different horse on top there, but just things to think about when you're structuring your ticket. So it's top pick time. We're on different horses here. You're on the 6 Astronomer. I'm on the 10 Elmandares on the outside, but I think you made a big case for Astronomer, and I think similar lines apply here to the 10.
Exactly. We're almost looking at the same types of trips. We're hoping for these horses that are cutting back from route races that'll just be a little bit fitter, had a little more punch. Yeah, I think Astronomer is built perfectly for the 6.5 downhill. And now with the second start off the bench, I think he should take a really nice step forward. Air Force Red, we know how cool and how honest he is. He's always in the mix underneath. And then I have others, the 4 First Piece. He's another pace factor who's going to be in the mix. You have him underneath as well, Ashley, and the same for Laneway. So those are the horses that we feel that are the really consistent down the hill horses, right?
Absolutely. I mean, they're horses that if you're playing the exotics, I think they at least deserve a look the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th spot, sort of how we use them here. But the other horse that I use, the only one that's different you can see, is on the inside, What Makes Sammy Run, which I'm not necessarily a fan with this horse's running style, having the inside on the downhill. But I think the big thing is I think Mark Glatt has some confidence. This horse ran very well in the past, was a very consistent stakes horse. And to me, the workouts have been good. So this is a horse that I'll be very curious to see when the line comes out and how the betting public handles a runner like this off such an extended layoff. But you can see 180 days or more, it's pretty strong number from a big sample size for Mark Latt. That sample size being 53, it's nearly 30%, 28%. So we'll see. And hey, Frankie Dettori's booked to ride, but it's a great race this Sunday out at Santa Anita. It's the Grade 3 Daytona, the nightcap on their 10 race program. Best of luck.